Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a journey back to one of the most remarkable railway routes ever to operate from the United Kingdom. The original Eurostar service from London Waterloo to Paris Gare du Nord. Operated by the iconic British Rail Class 373 trains, this route transformed the way people travelled between Britain and mainland Europe and marked the beginning of a new era of international rail travel. But this story is about much more than just a train journey. It's the story of a dream that had existed for over 2 centuries, the construction of one of the greatest engineering projects ever undertaken, and the arrival of trains capable of travelling from the heart of London to the centre of Paris without passengers ever needing to board a ferry or an aircraft. So sit back, relax, and let's discover the fascinating history of the original Eurostar route. For hundreds of years, the English Channel acted as Britain's natural barrier from mainland Europe. Crossing between England and France meant taking a ferry, and although this had worked well for generations, engineers had dreamed of building a tunnel beneath the channel since the early 19th century. Many early ideas were dismissed as impossible, while others raised fears that an invading army could simply march through the tunnel into Britain. As engineering techniques improved and relations between Britain and France became closer, the idea slowly became more realistic. Finally, in 1986, Britain and France signed the Treaty of Canterbury, giving the go-ahead for the Channel Tunnel. Construction began the following year, and thousands of workers from both countries began tunnelling beneath the seabed. After 3 years of continuous work, one of the most famous moments in engineering history took place in December 1990, when the British and French tunnelling teams finally met beneath the English Channel. For the first time in thousands of years, Britain was physically connected to mainland Europe by land. The completed Channel Tunnel stretches for just over 50 kilometres, making it one of the longest undersea tunnels in the world. It actually consists of 3 separate tunnels, 2 running tunnels for trains travelling in each direction, and a smaller service tunnel running between them. This central tunnel provides maintenance access and emergency escape routes, making the tunnel one of the safest major railway tunnels ever constructed. The tunnel wasn't built purely for passenger trains. It was designed to handle several different types of traffic. Freight trains would carry goods directly between Britain and mainland Europe without needing ships. International passenger trains would become Eurostar, and specially designed shuttle trains would transport cars, motorhomes, coaches, and thousands of heavy goods vehicles beneath the sea. These vehicle trains are now known as Le Shuttle. Drivers simply board the train with their vehicle in Folkestone and around 35 minutes later drive off in Calais. Every day, thousands of lorries use this service, making it one of the busiest freight links in Europe and playing a vital role in trade between the United Kingdom and continental Europe. With the tunnel complete, attention turned to passenger services. Eurostar officially began operating on the 14th of November 1994. Its London home would be Waterloo International, a brand new terminal built alongside the existing Waterloo station. At the time, it was one of the most modern railway terminals in Britain, complete with large departure lounges, airport-style security and passport control, giving passengers their first taste of international rail travel. There was, however, one significant problem. Although France already had an extensive network of dedicated high-speed railways, Britain didn't. The Channel Tunnel had been completed before Britain had built its own high-speed railway from London. This meant that Eurostar trains had to share ordinary railway lines through South London with commuter services. Instead of travelling at high speed immediately after leaving Waterloo, the trains threaded their way through one of Britain's busiest rail networks, passing familiar suburban stations and busy junctions before eventually reaching Kent. One of the most fascinating places along the route was Clapham Junction, often described as one of Europe's busiest railway junctions. Every day, hundreds of trains passed through this complex maze of tracks, making the beginning of the Eurostar journey unlike any other high-speed railway in Europe. As the train continued into Kent, the landscape gradually became more open, with rolling countryside replacing the busy streets of London. Passengers passed through Ashford, which later became Ashford International, allowing travellers from Kent to board Eurostar services without travelling all the way into London. Soon afterwards, the train approached Cheriton, near Folkestone, home to the Channel Tunnel Terminal. This is one of the most fascinating railway locations anywhere in Britain. Here, Eurostar trains shared the railway with enormous Shuttle vehicle trains carrying cars and lorries beneath the channel, while freight trains from across Britain joined the international network. Watching this mixture of high-speed passenger trains, heavy freight trains, and vehicle shuttle services all using the same infrastructure remains one of the most impressive railway sites in Europe. Then came the highlight of the journey, the entrance to the Channel Tunnel itself. As the train disappeared beneath the Kent countryside, passengers began one of the world's most unique railway experiences. For around 20 minutes, there was nothing to see outside the windows except darkness. Above the train lay the English Channel, with millions of tons of seawater overhead. Despite this, the ride was incredibly smooth and surprisingly quiet. Most passengers barely realised they were travelling beneath the seabed until the train emerged into daylight on the French coast. Almost immediately, everything changed. Instead of continuing along traditional railway lines, Eurostar joined France's dedicated LGV Nord high-speed railway. Now the Class 373 trains could finally demonstrate what they had been built to do. Accelerating rapidly towards 300 km per hour, the French countryside flashed past at incredible speed. Villages, farmland, and church spires disappeared almost as quickly as they appeared, giving passengers a completely different experience from the slower approach through South London. To operate this remarkable service required an equally remarkable train. The British Rail Class 373 was one of the most advanced passenger trains ever built. Designed jointly by Britain, France, and Belgium, the trains were based on French TGV technology but had to overcome challenges no ordinary high-speed train faced. They needed to operate on several different electrical systems. They had to communicate with multiple signalling systems. They needed to comply with the safety standards of 3 different countries. They even had to fit within Britain's much smaller loading gauge, while still offering the comfort expected of international travel. The result was one of the most sophisticated trains of the 1990s. The full-length Class 373 measured almost 400 metres long, making it one of the longest high-speed trains in regular passenger service anywhere in the world. Inside, passengers enjoyed spacious seating, buffet facilities, and smooth, quiet travel that rivaled air travel while offering far more generous legroom and the convenience of arriving directly in city centres. As the train approached Paris, the scenery gradually changed once again. The high-speed railway gave way to suburban lines before the train entered the magnificent Gare du Nord. Opened during the 19th century, Gare du Nord remains Europe's busiest railway station and one of its most beautiful. For many British passengers, stepping off a train in central Paris just a few hours after leaving London felt almost magical. No ferries, no airports, no baggage reclaim. Just one continuous railway journey linking 2 great European capitals. Although the Waterloo route was an enormous success, it was always intended to be temporary. Britain still needed its own dedicated high-speed railway. Construction of High Speed 1 finally solved this problem. When the line opened in stages during the early 2000s, Eurostar trains could finally travel at high speed for almost the entire British section of the journey. Then, on the 14th of November 2007, exactly 13 years after Eurostar began, services transferred from Waterloo International to the beautifully restored St Pancras International. Journey times fell dramatically, making rail even more competitive with airlines. Although Waterloo International closed to Eurostar services, it remains an important chapter in British railway history. The original route represented far more than simply travelling between London and Paris. It symbolised cooperation between nations. It transformed business and tourism. It encouraged millions of people to choose rail over air. It permanently connected Britain with mainland Europe for the very first time. Meanwhile, Le Shuttle continues to carry millions of passengers, cars and commercial vehicles every year, proving that the Channel Tunnel remains just as important for trade as it is for passenger travel. The iconic Class 373 trains also became legends in their own right. For over 2 decades, they carried millions of passengers across 3 countries and helped establish Eurostar as one of the world's most successful international high-speed railways. Even today, for many railway enthusiasts, the sight of a yellow-nosed Class 373 emerging from the Channel Tunnel remains one of the defining images of modern railway history. The original Waterloo to Paris route may no longer exist, but its legacy lives on every single day through the continued success of Eurostar, the Channel Tunnel and Le Shuttle. It was one of Britain's greatest transport achievements, one of Europe's most ambitious engineering projects, and a railway that changed international travel forever. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this look back at the history of the original Eurostar route from London Waterloo to Paris Gare du Nord, and the incredible story of the British Rail Class 373 trains. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, share it with your fellow railway enthusiasts, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more railway route learning videos, railway history documentaries, and driver's eye journeys from across Britain and around the world. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.